We made music that was intentionally that you would probably say, "What the hell is this?" And it just doesn't mix with other hip hop records. It only mixes with Public Enemy.
Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power!
Hello and welcome to the Lily Mercer Show. I'm here with the legendary Chuck D. Welcome.
I'm here with the legendary Lily Mercer. We just
All
talked
right.
about our last name, and then we had to do it for real. So here we are.
It's such a great honor to be sitting here with you.
It's good to be in a warm place.
We've always had a great love for Public Enemy, and I think it's maybe the kind of the punk attitude. You've got a very kind of punk or rebellious attitude, which I feel is, you know, the music side of London is quite rebellious in ways.
We're even rebellious against the things of what was supposed to be is. I mean, our whole thing is like, from day one, is to make music that you probably would hate. Initially, it was, I mean, not to put a sexist tint on it, but I tried to make music when I first started out that my girlfriend at the time would just totally dislike. And I knew if she hated it, I knew I was all right.
That's a good tactic, actually. So it was not girl rap at all.
Nah.
No.
And it challenged most men in the manlyhood in themselves to stand up. So it really was some serious, well, you know, if you want to walk into this room, you better be ready. It ain't pretty.
I feel like one of your most loved tracks, Rebel Without a Pause, in my eyes is one of the hardest instrumentals to write to. I may be wrong, but I feel like listening to that on a loop would almost drive you crazy. So what was it like to write the verses to Rebel Without a Pause?
1987, when I wrote it, I happened to lock myself in the house for about 40 hours, and my mother thought it was a tea kettle. It was actually a sample from The Grunt and also a combination of Miles Davis. And I decided to write to it, and you have to really have a kind of weird type of frame to actually just deal with and think that something like that's appealing. I mean, but I did the same thing with Public Enemy #1 off the same, you know, type of rhythm, drone sound. And that's what appealed to me. You know, something that you can really kind of drive 120 miles an hour to. But I'm not a fast driver. I actually drive construction speed. But it's the mentality of getting behind that wheel and letting it roll as much as it was dancing. So yeah, you have to really seriously take that on. Then also when it comes down to making a record off of it, you gotta have vocals that cut the mix. Most people got their vocal ranges in the same range, the rappers. Myself and Flavors happen to go outside the range. This is why that's really the secret of us. You know, it's no studio. You know, it's just really what it is.
So I feel like your music is, it's always been quite uncomfortable, and it makes people feel uncomfortable in a positive way. As in, you know, the ideas that you're putting across, they're not things that people necessarily want to face up to. And equally, the instrumentals were quite abrasive, you know? Was that something that you set out to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we come from radio, so we played everybody. And we knew who are our heroes and our innovators, people like Marley Marl and, you know, the Run DMC, Larry Smith, and Davey DMX, who's our bass player, you know, now. So we came from that knowing what everybody did, so we knew what not to do. And we took that on. You gotta like it too. You gotta like going and being uncool. So I spent 28 years trying to really not be cool and not be hip. And it's worked. Anything, you know, you gotta be a little kind of twisted. Like everything is popular, then I'm going the other way.
Because you were the first like politically motivated rap group, and I feel it's fallen off. I feel like today there's not really any, there's not even any proactive side to rappers. Do you think that's a shame?
They're out there. I think the biggest difference between now and back in the day, 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, 25, more individuals, less groups. So we want to turn this thing into Matowi. Matowi means from me, you know, from me to we. And that's probably the biggest difference in hip hop now. So when it comes down to somebody taking a political stance, how much are they going to be willing to put themselves out there as an individual? I come from a group, you know, myself, Professor Griff, you know, Flavor Flav has his own dynamic. The S1Ws, DJ Lord, before that Terminator X, you know, everybody had their individuals that came together and was able to make a united statement and stance. So today you have individuals. And anytime an individual, you know, individuals aren't really saluted for being diversified. They have to be that one type, you got to be in your frame. We can afford to be in various different situations because we're individuals inside one frame. So we could be varied. So that's probably what's happened to the political direction, or I should say the political focus of who does what in hip hop.
Jesus is the best thing that happened to the game since the tennis shoe was invented.
Verses for the pros, kids with feelers. Reebok, Nikes, New Balance, my ideas. Ain't part of that clique. Spinning all the cheddar on kicks. BS in the politics. Politics of them sneaker pimps. 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 Hey,
You're here to celebrate the launch of House of Vans. So,
Celebrate it?
Yeah, because it's never launched here yet. We've never had it in the UK before. So do you feel that it's a great opportunity to be in London?
Yeah, we just finished doing our 98th tour. So, you know, we've just got here from Belfast. And so you got to give a big up to everybody in Ireland and also Scotland on its way to independence, hopefully in September. And come to London, which has always been our base for 28 years.
Dedicated against J. Edgar Hoover. It's called Hoover Music House of Vans. So broadly spread, the radio, the TV, the World Wide Web. Oh, we can't control what you say. Now like somebody's in bed with the fans. Hoover Music, why you want to take music and make music to make my crew thinking of music so nobody else can use it? Born in some Hollywood, they just talk for you. Blink, blink, blink. What, yeah, is it raining or ripping? Come on, no more taking. Is it still regulating? This was a hate song, and y'all know it's wrong. Anything for the money, talk that. BT, MTV, PIC, that's right, the PIC. Honestly, it's policy be killing me. Dribble who, dribble what? Is your mother-body so real from it? Sold in the center, million kids in prison.
You once said that rap music is Black America's CNN. And I feel like if you were to look at it today, you wouldn't get the same perception. You know, it doesn't really reveal real life the same way.
Hip hop has become a worldwide religion, cultural religion. I tell people all the time, I said, you know, myself, I'm beyond religion and politics and governments and stuff like that. I'm an earthisan. Been going around the earth so many times, 28, 30 years, so many places, knowing so many places and so many people. I'd be damn stupid to say I'm a citizen of any one place. Because I was born in a place, I'm therefore anchored to it like a slave. I'm an earthisan. I'm of the planet Earth. And top of any religion, my respect goes to religion, especially like things that line up with my philosophies. Islam is a great way to start because you submit to greater existence. But I'm a culturalist because I know deep down culture brings human beings, the one race, human race, together for our similarities and knocks aside the differences. Deep down, culture is your spirituality. It brings you together.
Fight the power! Fight the power! We've got to fight the powers that be! Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me. Yes, he's straight out racist, the sucker.
What I tell you about that noise? What I tell you about that pitch? What the fuck are you dead? Are you? Fuck you! We want the black people on that motherfucking wall of fame now!
And I wanted to ask about Do the Right Thing, because it recently celebrated the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, 25 years happens.
It's very exciting. And do you feel that, because obviously your song was, I mean, especially then, it was an incredibly powerful song, you know, dealing with kind of racial tensions and things like that. But were you ever nervous about what you said? Did you ever think, like, this is really going to make an impact and maybe a negative one? Or were you just like, yes, this needs to go?
I mean, when I talked about Elvis and John Wayne, I was smacking at the American icon platitude that was always projected, like nobody else existed. Elvis was very talented. He got his stuff from black people. white America didn't really know that in 1988 and 86. They thought, he was the king, and they started off being the king without being the prince somewhere. And, to know about Elvis and not Bobby Blue Bland, then maybe we got to come at this direction. And John Wayne is like, who gives a damn, really? But these were American heroes that needed to also, that needed to get expanded. Still to this day, not only are Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, not only are they alive, but they're doing gigs. B.B. King. B.B. King is 89 years old. They're doing gigs now. So you need to recognize that, and most people in the UK recognize that from different aspects. In the United States, they don't. So our own cultural connection and heritage is usually stopgapped by concocted celebrity culture, whippings of mass distraction to get somebody's attention into consumer culture instead of, you figuring out where yourself is at and going from there. So, that's understandable. My thing is just like give young people the tools so they know they have options. Give them themselves, give them their legacy, give them their history, and then they'll have options to be a consumer if they choose be it, or, figure out how to do it themselves or not be a consumer.
I actually saw you tweeted recently the original sketches of the Public Enemy logo, which in my eyes is one of the most iconic logos in music. You know, it's not even in hip hop. But I wanted to know, how did you come up with it? What was the original idea? And like you as you said in the pictures, if anyone hasn't seen it, they were hand sketched, which is lovely. You mentioned there's no Photoshop or, computer design skills.
Didn't exist back then.
Yeah, exactly.
I graduated from Adelphi University in 1984. I was a phenom. But everything then was done. What you learn, you go to a university with a talent and you hope to get it manifested into a skill. And I had some of the best teachers. I had a rocky beginning because I was so good, but I was cocky when I was 18 and 19. I got it when I was 21, graduated at 24. But I was envious of the rock bands on Long Island. Everybody had a logo. And we always used to do hip-hop events. But, nobody treated the presentation of hip-hop well. They just treated it like a hustle. We treated it like an event, just like the rock bands. And they wasn't known rock bands, but they had their logos. They would come up and have they would have their shit together. And when we threw our hip-hop events, we wanted to mimic that. So, we would also make up groups and say, look, I can make your group up a name and put a logo on it better than what you guys are. Yeah, so you can spit. And at the end of the day, it's like, it doesn't mean it. It's spitting into the wind. And so I would make logos for groups. And I made this fictional group called Funky Frank and the Street Force. So these three cats that just happen to rap, I said, I'll put them together and then I could put you on my show. And I made that logo, which was like a B-boy. E-Love was LL Cool J's comrade. They wore the Run DMC fedora hats so you could pick up at Jamaica Avenue. And you had to pose the B-boy stance. This would be B-boy stance. I put a circle around it on the target that this is the B-boy under attack. It's a fictional group. It never really transpired into anything. Then we had the Public Enemy thing come along, and I put it together with the stencil because they had this TV show. It was a TV movie about this guy in the 30s that the FBI was after because he was an FBI. He was a gangster, but an FBI agent. And they had it in stencil, like Melvin Corpus, FBI agent. And they put stencils. It was in stencils. Public Enemy, number one. And I said, So when we started Public Enemy, the stencil kept in my mind. And I was looking around, and I said, I did this logo for Funky Frank and the Street Force. Zoop! Pooh! Because the strong part I knew about the rock bands, like in the Rolling Stones with the tongue, in certain aspects, it's like the power in the logo is not always in the type. Although whoever designed Wu-Tang made it look like swords. So it's that sickle thing is still a W. So it could go into sickle, it could go to W. So your mind also has to create the trick too. It's like make the logo without the type. If you could detach the logo and still have the equal amount of power, then you've really, embedded something. So I made Public Enemy. I put Public Enemy with the bar. The bar in the middle is sort of like a takeoff of Run DMC's bar. And then the logo on the side, but you could detach it. You could take the logo, throw it to the right, and Public Enemy and throw it to the left, and still it had the same meaning. So we sought out to do that. And we said, you know, if nobody's doing it, we can set out to do it and achieve this in an immediate span. And that's how that happened.
And on that note, thank you very much for joining me on the Lily Mercer Show. It's been an honor.
Lily Mercer.
Woo.